Most people think their AI sounds generic because the model is weak. That is usually the wrong diagnosis. The output sounds generic because the input environment is generic and you asked for a result, but you did not build the system around the result. So the model gave you the average of the internet. A prompt is not magic. It is a thin instruction layer sitting on top of a much bigger context problem. If the context is vague, the output has no choice but to reach for safe patterns. That is why your strategy sounds like every other strategy. Your captions sound like every other caption. Your scripts sound like they were assembled from the same public template pile. The AI is not refusing to be specific. You have not given it enough specific reality to work with. Technical creators and serious operators do not get better AI output because they know secret phrases. They get better output because they treat context like infrastructure. They define inputs. They preserve decisions. They capture examples. They constrain the system. That is the difference between asking an assistant to write something good and giving it an operating environment. One produces vibes, the other produces leverage. The first move is simple. Stop asking the AI to create in the abstract. Every output needs a job, not a theme, not a category, a job. Write a post about AI automation is weak context. Explain why automation fails when the workflow is undocumented. For a technical founder who has tried 3 tools and still has manual bottlenecks is stronger. Now the model has a person, a problem, a belief, and a target. Specificity creates surface area. Surface area gives the AI something to grip. The second move is to stop feeding the model empty instructions and start feeding it real material. Real notes, real objections, real workflows, real customer language, real constraints. Generic output often comes from missing source material. If you only say, make this sound premium, the AI has to guess what premium means. If you give it your positioning, your audience's pain, your previous examples, your product boundaries, and the thing you refuse to sound like, the output changes. Not because the model became smarter, because the context became less empty. Voice is not a list of adjectives. Sharp, technical, calm helps, but it is not enough by itself. A voice boundary needs contrast. What do you sound like? What do you never sound like? For this channel, the voice is precise, architectural, and calm. No hype, no guru energy, no inflated promises, no fake urgency. That boundary matters because AI drifts toward common internet patterns unless you fence them out. Good context does not just tell the model where to go. It tells the model which roads are closed. Examples are powerful, but raw examples are incomplete. If you paste 3 scripts and say, match this, the AI may copy the surface. It may imitate rhythm without understanding the structure. The stronger move is to annotate the examples. This hook works because it creates a diagnostic gap. This transition works because it turns a vague pain into a mechanism. This close works because it gives one action without over-explaining. Now, the model is not just copying style. It is learning the logic behind the style. That is where the quality jump happens. Most people ask the AI to think and write in the same step. That creates messy output because the model is solving structure, audience, angle, tone, and wording all at once. Split the work. First ask for the angle, then the outline, then the objections, then the draft, then the tightening pass. This is not bureaucracy, it is quality control. When you separate thinking from drafting, you can inspect the architecture before you decorate the walls. That is how you stop accepting polished nonsense. Bad constraints make output stiff. Good constraints make output useful. Make it engaging is not a constraint. Use short sentences, no hype, no invented numbers. Explain one mechanism per section is a constraint. The point is not to control every word. The point is to reduce the search space. AI models generate from probability. If your request leaves every path open, the safest path wins. Strong constraints remove the lazy pass. They force the model toward the shape of the result you actually want. So the fix is not a better prompt, it is a context stack. At the bottom, you define the audience and the job. Above that, you add source material, then voice boundaries, then examples with reasoning, then stage workflow, then output constraints. This stack turns AI from a slot machine into a production system. You still need judgment. You still need editing. But now you are editing from a structured draft instead of rescuing a generic blob. That is a very different workflow. When the context improves, the output becomes more specific, more stable, and easier to reuse. You spend less time rewriting from scratch. You stop fighting the same generic patterns every day. You begin building reusable systems, content systems, research systems, sales systems, product systems. That is digital leverage, not asking AI for random cleverness, engineering the conditions where useful output becomes repeatable. The best operators are not chasing perfect prompts. They are designing better input environments. So if your AI outputs sound generic, do not start by blaming the model. Start by auditing the context. What job did you define? What reality did you feed it? What boundaries did you set? The takeaway is simple. Generic context creates generic output. Engineered context creates leverage. Subscribe to Mind Games Labs for more systems at the intersection of data, AI, and digital leverage. And if you want to see the broader ECTD ecosystem, go to ectd.com.au.